Peddler Polly, goods bought here and sold there. That was the sign on Peddler Polly's cart as her horse pulled up Main Street. Peddler Polly looked around and smiled. I'm sure glad to be back in Tailtown. Imagine a town where everyone tells stories.
Peddler Polly parked at the town square. Over on Town Hall, she saw a notice. Story swap today. Bring a story if you still know one.
If you still know one.
Hello, Peddler Polly,
Came a sad little girl's voice. Well, it's my old friend Penny. Do you have a good story for me? I'll gladly trade it for something from my cart.
Penny sobbed and sniffed. I don't have any stories at all. Hardly anyone in Teletown does. We're all losing our stories.
Losing your stories? Whatever do you mean?
We start to tell a story, and then it's gone. We can't remember it anymore. Come to the story swap this afternoon and see.
Dr. Sebastian Spellbinder, Entertainment Paraphernalia. In the cart stood a man with a top coat, top hat, and goatee, surrounded by piles of wooden boxes.
A crowd was gathering before him.
You've heard of a storyteller, and you've heard of a storybook. Well, I'm here to show you something finer still. The brand new, patented Spellbinder Storybook!
Oh, Peddler Polly! He's selling stories!
Dr. Spellbinder held up one of the wooden boxes, showing a pane of glass on side. He flipped the switch and the glass came to life. Tiny characters moved across the pane and tiny voice came out.
Someone in the crowd yelled, "It's Cinderella!"
Dr. Spellbinder turned a knob, and a different moving picture appeared.
That's Puss in Boots!
He turned the knob again.
And that's Sleeping Beauty! Never again will you have to ask for a story, and never again will you have to imagine the pictures. Who will be the first to buy a Spellbinder Storybox? I'll take one.
So will I.
I'll take two.
Before long, Dr. Spellbinder's cart was empty. The town square was covered with the children and grown-ups, all staring blankly at the little boxes.
I don't like the looks of this. When Peddler Polly arrived at the story swap that afternoon, Town Hall was packed. The room was buzzing with talk about lost stories and Spellbinder story boxes.
Finally, Mayor Bartha Bigwig took the stage. She glanced nervously around her. Welcome to the story swap. It is my honor to tell the first story, The Pied Piper of Hamelin.
From her seat by an open window, Peddler Polly heard a soft whir and sucking noise.
Life in the town of Hamelin was pleasant, or it would have been if not for the
mayor turned pale.
I've lost my story!
And she ran from the stage. A horrified murmur rose in the room.
Melton Marbles, the schoolteacher, tried next. My story is Jack and the Beanstalk.
Again, Peddler Polly heard the whir and the sucking.
There was once a poor widow who had an only son named... Oh no!
He fled the stage in tears.
Next came Penny.
This is the myth of Pegasus. Peddler Polly heard the noises once more. A long time ago in Greece, there was a horse called Pegasus. This horse was special because... Stop the swap! We can't afford to lose any more stories. It's the end of the storytelling in Teletown.
As excited talk filled the room, Peddler Polly thought she heard a crackle out the window. She looked and saw a man with a topcoat and hot hat hurry away from the building. He carried a large wooden box covered with switches, knobs, and dials with a long hose attached to it.
It's Dr. Spellbinder. I better look into this. Peddler Polly hastened from the hall. She followed Dr. Spellbinder from a distance as he left town and made his way to the hills.
At last, Dr. Spellbinder disappeared through the mount of a cave. Peddler Polly followed him and stopped in astonishment. The huge cave was filled with mechanisms and contraptions, all of them noisily pulling or pushing or pulsing or pounding.
Dr. Spellbinder stood at the workbench covered with the story boxes and other strange devices. He set down the big box he was carrying and patted it fondly.
3 more stories to put into my story boxes. And all thanks to my brilliant invention, the Spellbinder Story Sucker. Soon I'll steal all the stories in the world. Then everyone will need a story box and I'll be rich, rich, rich. Not if I can help it.
Peddler Polly, what are you doing here? Putting an end to your evil plans, Spellbinder. You'll never stop me, Peddler Polly.
And Dr. Spellbinder grabbed the story sucker and sprinted from the cave.
Down the hill sped Dr. Spellbinder, while Peddler Polly puffed in pursuit. Without the story sucker, Peddler Polly was faster. You won't catch me so easily! He lifted the lid on the story sucker and reached in. See how you like this story, Peddler Polly?
He threw something behind him. There was a flashlight, and out of nowhere, a huge crowd of children appeared, coming uphill toward the Peddler Polly. They were led by a man in a many-colored costume playing on a pipe.
Well, I'll be!
Peddler Polly pushed past the start man and pressed through the crowd of mesmerized children.
It's a catchy tune, kids, but I wouldn't follow a Pied Piper. Dr. Spellbinder was far ahead. Peddler Polly ran hard and gained on him. One good story deserves another. And he reached into the story sucker. Another flash, and Peddler Polly saw a boy chopping down a gigantic beanstalk. But just then, the boy took to his heels, calling, "Heads up!"
Peddler Polly looked up and stopped just in time. A huge man tumbled from the sky and landed with an earth-shaking crash just before her.
Didn't know stories could be so dangerous.
Peddler Polly ran around the giant while she waved the boy and called,
"Thank you, Jack!" Dr. Spellbinder had vanished behind a hill, and Peddler Polly panted after him. As she rounded the bend, she gasped. Tied to a landing platform was a lighter-than-air balloon, and Dr. Spellbinder was climbing into the basket. Oh no! Now he'll get away for sure! Unless... It's all over now, Peddler Polly!
Dr. Spellbinder untied the rope and the balloon floated into the air.
But I still have one more story, and it might as well keep you busy. If it's the one I think it is.
Dr. Spellbinder threw it to the ground. Another flash, and there stood a horse with the long, graceful wings.
Pegasus! Peddler Polly ran and leaped onto the horse, and dug in her heels. The horse flapped its wings smoothly and rose up in the air. Up and up it spiraled, until it was flying circles around the dismayed Dr. Spellbinder. Guess you forgot your mythology, Spellbinder. Didn't you know Pegasus was a flying horse?
Peddler Polly rode in close, grabbed Dr. Spellbinder, and flung him across the horse's back.
My story sucker!
Cried Dr. Spellbinder as the balloon floated away with his invention.
I don't guess you'll need it where you're going. For a crime like shutting up stories, a judge is sure to shut you up, unhappily ever after. A few weeks later, when all of Dr. Spellbinder's story boxes had been opened and the stories returned to their tellers, the people of Tailtown held a big storytelling festival on the town square. Mayor Bigwig announced, "And our special guest for today is Peddler Polly." Hooray! Hooray! Well, thanks. And now I'll tell a story called Peddler Polly and the Story Stealer. And that's the tale
They always tell in Tailtown.